people, like me. I am a normal person. I'm a normal person. I'm kind of just a dude. I was just your average, apolitical citizen. So back to my point. I'm a normal person. We, the normal people, because we're just people. I am seriously just a normal person. As I can't emphasize this enough, a normal person. Just a normal person. A lot of other normal people, like me. I am a normal person. I'm a normal person. I'm kind of just a dude. I was just your average, apolitical citizen. So back to my point. I'm a normal person. We, normal people. Because we're just people. I am seriously just a normal person. As I can't emphasize this enough. A normal person.
I don't know if it's far-fetched to ask, but Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
Although it may take several decades for the process of transformation to unfold, combat will likely take place in new dimensions, in space, cyberspace, and perhaps the world of microbes. Space itself will become a theater of war as nations gain access to space capabilities and come to rely on them. Further, the distinction between military and commercial space systems, combatants and non-combatants, will become blurred. Information systems will become an important focus of attack, particularly for U.S. enemies seeking to short-circuit sophisticated American forces, and advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool.
Let's get ready to spread 'em. Yukon ho!
Yukon.
Let's spread it from the Yukon. Benjamin's Dichter is here with us right now. And for the first time ever, I am in Yukon with Rain. We're at Rain's place.
Not the first time ever. First time streaming ever.
First time streaming ever. Yeah, first time that these people know about.
Yep.
Sorry about this little icon here on the phone. I'm using an app to use my phone as a webcam because I've had to set up the J Engineer studio here. In the meantime, everyone bear with us if it sounds crazy or acts crazy. BJ, how you doing?
I'm good, man. You know,
Yeah.
I used to deal a lot with the Yukon many, many years ago. When the Acadie mine was being set up, I used to work for HRD because I mentioned I was a gemologist in the past and a diamond grader. And I worked for the company that was working to try to set up legislation and help with implementing many of the changes in the diamond. It was one of my first jobs actually out of school. So I used to talk to Yukon all the time. My boss was there like once every couple of months.
Nice.
So yeah.
And did
very
you go
cool.
up, or you're just talking up to people up there?
You know what? I'll tell you a funny story. I was working for the Belgian conglomerate, and I remember the managing director yelling at me in the office in Toronto because he couldn't understand why I couldn't get a package to Yellowknife in 2 hours. Right? And so, I mean, we were up we dealt with Northwest Territories and with Yukon and all that sort of stuff. They couldn't understand what took so long to get. So they asked me, well, if we were going to drive there, how long would it take? I'm like, I don't know, a week, like something like that. And they just couldn't process that, you know. But
I'll tell you one thing: during the lockdown, I was doing the math how long it would take to drive up there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of us.
Yeah, yeah,
for sure. How do you like it?
Oh, it's great up here, man.
Yeah, it's nice and quiet, eh? Peaceful.
Yeah, Rain lives up here, so you take that question.
Yeah, we live outside of Whitehorse, so we're out more in the country, so it's like super quiet. We don't have really many close neighbors or anything, so it's nice.
So were you like dramatically affected by all the government regulations and stuff, or just didn't really affect you all that much?
No, we got hit pretty hard up here with lockdowns and mask mandates and vaccine mandates and everything else. Yeah, it was pretty much the same as everywhere else in Canada, really. Yeah.
Even when you're out in like rural Yukon, they still harassed you?
Well, not so much out there, but I mean, if you wanted to go into town and, you know, go grocery shopping or anything like that, yeah, I had to wear masks and all that stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yukon's weird. It's you think it's a whole bunch of like gun-toting, hunting, isolationists trying to get away from the big city, but then they vote in nothing but liberals up here.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like super lefty government up here.
Wow.
We're going bonkers over COVID. How long did it take for you guys to have deaths up here? "Quote unquote" deaths for it was like months.
Took a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took months. Yeah, and even then, the first guy that apparently allegedly died from COVID. I mean, that's the beauty of living in a small town. A lot of people know everybody, so a lot of people talk, right? So the first guy that allegedly died of COVID, I mean, he was, you know, 1.5 feet in the ground already with stage 4 cancer and all kinds of other ailments. And so, I mean, people just kind of whatever, you know, like
died from. What's the difference? There's a big difference. No.
Yeah. No.
You know,
Take the shot. Lock down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're kind of Toronto, right?
Yeah. I'm not only in Toronto, which is communist in itself, but I'm in like the most communist part of Toronto. And I mean, I didn't care. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't, you know, I just kind of did my own thing. And I remember I was telling, what's that?
You didn't mask?
No. And I remember I was telling this, I told this story a couple of times. There's a local coffee shop that I go to all the time. I know the owners and stuff like that. And I remember one time right in the middle of it when there's extreme, you know, mask mandates and all that sort of nonsense. I come into the coffee shop like every day because I was trucking most of the time. That's why I went to the US to get away from it. So I have the same routine. I go in the morning, I grab my coffee, hop in the car, drive my truck, and go to the States, right? And so I'm in line, and I have no mask, and everybody else has a mask. So usual, I just kind of ignore that. I talk to the owner, how are you, whatever. And they all felt the same way as me, but the guy owns a business. He's a guy I want to get fined. But they, you know, Didn't want to wear it either. I'm waiting for my coffee at the end of the bar, and some woman comes up to me, and she says to me, and she's like, 5 feet tall. She looks up to me. She says, "You're not wearing a mask." And I look down at her, and I'm about to say, "Excuse me?" And she says, No. I don't want to wear a mask either. And I said, "Just take it off." That's what I do. Every place I go to, I walk in without a mask. And if there's a lineup, if you wait, every time, like clockwork, a minute and a half in, if nobody says anything, other people start taking their mask off and saying, "Screw this." Right?
Yeah.
I said, "Don't be afraid. Just do what you want. It's your life. It's not the government's life." And so she took her mask off and she said, "It feels so good." I'm like, "Yeah, now just make sure you tell the rest of your family to do the same thing."
The ultimate effect was the convoy. And the convoy showed up. I sure enjoyed shopping a lot more while they were here.
Well, and I remember when we showed up, like people forget that when we arrived in Ottawa, I remember the first day I arrived there, go to downtown, and there's mobs of people not wearing masks. And remember, we had hard lockdowns, we had mask mandates, and it was significant, the fact that there were crowds of people not wearing masks. And remember, it's going to be ironically titled "A Super Spreader Event. Everybody's going to die." What happened? Where are all the deaths that resulted from the Freedom Convoy? I'm still waiting for the death meter for that.
It was only Trump rallies and the convoy that could super spread, right? Not BLM riots or anything like that.
Yeah, the virus only likes people who have the wrong political opinion.
Yeah, it's amazing bug. So and to this day you're still trucking, right?
Yeah, I got to go out tomorrow. I got to go down to I go down to Connecticut, and then I backhaul in New York, and hopefully I'll be back, if all goes well, late on Monday night, and then back out on Tuesday.
Right. For our American fans who might not know, you probably do though. We got most of our fans from the convoy. BJ was among the organizers of the event itself, and usually pushed out into the front to speak. You got to do Tucker Carlson and whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've continued to. I was on the Hill, I don't know, a couple of months ago. I was on with Russell Brand just before the New Year's, around Christmas time. I got a bunch of, I don't know, there's always things going on. I have a bunch of things lined up for 2023 as well, because I think it's important that we need to send this message to push back strategically against, the authoritarians in government, that we've sent a message with the convoy. We've drawn the line in the sand, and you will not cross that. So you can launch all the lawfare harassment suits that you want. You can do all the defamation and smears that you want. That's fine. We don't care. We're not stopping, and we're going to continue talking about this very serious issue. And thankfully, I think there's more people amongst the mainstream, well, not the mainstream, the people who are a little bit in the normie bubble, the 2+2 kids. They're too busy with things in life to really pay attention to all this stuff. They defer a lot of their decisions to the government. Even those people are now starting to wake up and realize, hey, something's wrong. And I did a live stream the other day. I was talking about Scott Adams, who, God bless him, just retweeted me yesterday with this. His thesis of how long does it take for a fake news story to be corrected in the public record.
Oh, geez.
Now, I thought it would take 1 to 3 years. That's been kind of my strategy. That's why I started with a book. That's why I've been talking about stuff, because I figured this is going to take at least 3 years. He thinks it's 1 to 5 years. And either way, it's going to take a while until we get enough people to understand what actually went on, despite the toilet paper of the Rouleau, or I call it the Rouleau-Wilson report, or the smears from the government. We're not going to stop. I'm not going to stop talking until everybody understands what truly went on.
It's good you're still getting prominent interviews, because, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like the convoy didn't exist as far as, the mainstream goes.
I'll tell you something. When I go to the States, that convoy still, I mean, here as well, amongst the political class, lives in the minds of our politicians rent free still to this day. That's why they're obsessed with it. They try not to talk to it, but it bugs the hell out of them. But in the States, man, I got to tell you, we are Canadians who stood up to the government. We are heroes there, and they celebrate. I mean, still, once in a while, I'll go down there. They'll recognize I got a Canadian plate. They'll make a joke, often in Spanish, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, the Canadian truckers, the badass truckers," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was me and a bunch of my friends," and like, get out, whatever. And I remember a few weeks ago, a place in Newark I go to, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy from," I can't remember what he said. I think it was Jordan Peterson. "You're the guy from Peterson." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh," and they got all the guys from the plant, took a picture, talked. What was it like? What's the government like in Canada? So it inspired a lot of people because people needed a group of people to stand up, and we were just the first ones to go. And thankfully, all of you went and supported us. We couldn't have done it without you guys online, doing Twitter Spaces, doing live streams, streaming video. Like that's what made it all work and come together. So
I made it huge. By that second weekend, I mean, felt like there were as many people streaming as there were just attending the event.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
We're running into each other with our. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, one sec there. My camera's going wonkers. So, of course, you've taken that and spun that into a multi-million-dollar career working for the feds. Right?
Oh yeah. I'm just. You know what? I just got my place on Golden Beach in Miami. Spent $50 million in the house, and I'm.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it has been financially devastating to all of us.
Yeah.
To have participated in this, and then putting this book together was not cheap. Cost me
New
a
book,
lot.
Everyone. New
What's
book.
that?
New book, everyone. Honking for Freedom.
HonkingForFreedom.com, and now on Apple Books. And Apple Books, to their credit, they haven't banned it. I'm shocked. So it's on Kobo, Amazon, Apple Books, and Etsy, and none of them have banned it. So good for them.
I got my Kindle yesterday.
What's that?
I got my Kindle version yesterday.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Have you started reading it yet or no?
No, just got it yesterday. Yeah.
I want to know what you think. Tell me as it goes along. Like, give me your opinions and feedback. I hope you enjoy the story. I really do.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. And yeah, as far as we were on the financials, you're named in giant lawsuit, right?
Yeah, I'm one of the people named in their $450 million, I call it a lawfare harassment suit, which is exactly what it is.
Which one is this? Is this the Zexy Lee one from City of Ottawa?
Sexy Lee. She's just a regular person.
That's a regular person. I wasn't aware of that.
That video was awesome, by the way. It was great.
Yeah, thanks, man. She did it. She did it all herself. That isn't even all the time she said it in the speech. Yeah. I just got sick of it after a while.
Listen, she's a kid, man. Yeah, she's a kid being used as a pawn by the political class. Yeah, and she's in way over her head. I feel bad for her. They're exploiting her.
Me too. They're being. I don't know if I feel bad for her. She's kind of a BTCH, if you know what I mean. On the street, we have other footage of her where she's just harassing people.
Oh yeah, and I heard about the eggs. Chris Gettr was telling me about the eggs growing and all that. Well, okay, so she's a spoiled brat, but she's still a kid.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're telling her she's going to be like, going to give her a political position or something. I think that talk that I'm a normal person comes from is they're telling her she's practicing for office and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got a question from somebody in the comments on Rumble.
Oh yeah.
Uncle Kenny.
Uncle Kenny.
I'm not sure the context here, but maybe BJ can answer it. He's asking you if during the convoy you used someone else's phone to text. I'm not sure why that would be relevant.
For security purposes?
What's that?
Oh, no.
For security purposes?
He doesn't specify.
Right.
Yeah, no, what we were using was Signal. So until February 5th, approximately, because I do have family in policing and I have a lot of friends in policing who were just, they saw what was going on with the Ottawa police. And they said to me, now you understand what we're dealing with. Now you know the BS we deal with in policing. Everything is woke BS. Everything is politicized. And in the case of my brother, he says, That's why I'm trying to retire as early as possible, because of the behavior of the Ottawa police is exactly what we're dealing with. You know, that guy, Chief Bell, who doesn't understand what violence is. He thinks violence doesn't have to be in the criminal code. Words are violence. So what we did is because I knew people in policing, they suggested to me that the one platform that they struggle most with to decrypt is Signal. And I said, okay. So I told Tamara, I told everybody else, switch over to Signal. It's the one thing that is problematic. And not just them. I know I have some people in computer programming told me the same thing. And so that's what we use to text.
Right. Yeah, we use Signal as well.
Yeah.
Pretty decent app. Word is it's got backdoors, but I mean, probably everything
I heard
does.
that this week as well, eh?
Yeah.
I heard the same thing. That's been
There's
cracked.
another one called Element that is supposedly doesn't. A little hard to use, though. It's so encrypted that you have to like send keys to each other and stuff like that before you direct message.
Session app is like that too.
Yeah,
which
Session.
I sometimes use. Yeah, Session is just it's a blockchain code and that's it. It's no identifiers whatsoever, which is what at some point I think we'll all have to move to eventually.
Yeah, it's gonna be one big blockchain world. You're a big blockchain guy, right?
Yeah, I mean I'm a Bitcoin guy. And I'm not in that big, blockchain, not Bitcoin stuff. That's the communists, what they say.
Right.
But I was on Robert Breedlove's podcast a couple weeks ago. Super good dude. If you know who he is, I describe him to the people who don't know who he is. This might not be entirely accurate, but I see him as kind of like the Jordan Peterson of Bitcoin. It's a good way to describe him.
Yeah, I've seen him talk.
Yeah, super good guy. I'm going to be speaking at Bitcoin Canada. I'm going to be a keynote speaker there. And I'm a keynote speaker at this Bitcoin Freedom Festival in Massachusetts in June, where they want to honor the Canadian truckers. So we're putting together a list of truckers to bring down and for a one-day long music festival event and stuff. Should be pretty wild. And they love us down there, man. Like, especially... You're in Massachusetts, 1776, the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Those guys, they really believe in freedom there. They don't screw around with freedom. It's wonderful.
Yeah. The you believe in Bitcoin kind of exclusively, like it's the pure one. Just stick with that.
Yeah, because for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I've the term orange pill. I've orange pilled a number of people who just don't have the tech savviness, and they're lukewarm in terms of their comfort with new technology, and it confuses them getting into all these altcoins and stuff. And the other problem is so many of these altcoins, like the Bitcoin maxis, they're very hostile towards altcoins. I understand why, but I keep telling them from my perspective, it's kind of a casino. They're centralized, they're run by companies. They can feel the wrath and pressure of authoritarian governments to shut them down. But some people like going to Caesar's Palace to gamble. So if people want to gamble with altcoins, it's not my thing, but if that's what they want, great. As long as we understand the underlying asset that is the most decentralized is Bitcoin. And then on the other side, in the Bitcoin space, I'm trying to advocate for greater privacy, given what we went through with the Freedom Convoy, the importance of coin joining and stuff like that. Nothing is ever perfect and everything can always be improved, and that includes Bitcoin. But I think it's the most robust for a whole bunch of reasons. But we don't want to make it a Bitcoin podcast, right?
No, but a little bit. I think we need to get out of this banking system one way or another. I was going to say, Rain and I know a little bit about betting on altcoins, don't we?
A little bit.
Yeah, we had our fun, and then we had our not so much fun.
Yeah. It's funny. When I went to the Bitcoin conference, saw one of my closest friends. He's an attorney in Miami, and he said to me, "I didn't know you're into Bitcoin." I'm like, "I don't know. You should know me by now. I'm into computers. I'm into all that stuff." He's like, "Well, I wish I would have known 6 months ago." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Well, I got interested in Bitcoin, and then somebody told me I should get Cardano." I'm like, "Oh, and how'd you do?" He's like, "I lost a little bit." I'm like, "What'd you lose?" He says, "My wife thinks 80,000, but it was 180,000."
Who?
And I'm like, "Oh, well, learn your lesson." He's like, "Yeah, you just killed me."
Yeah.
So, and that's what I try to avoid. That's why I want people to understand what Bitcoin is, just dollar cost average. Don't put all your money into it. just get a small percentage of your net worth into it as insurance. I'm trying to sell Bitcoin as insurance and protection for the future in case the inevitable continues to happen with the collapse of these banks. I think Deutsche Bank is next. I was in a space with Greg Foss last week. We were discussing it. And I thought Deutsche Bank would go down 3 years ago because of their exposure to the derivatives markets, which was closing in on $70 trillion underwater. Like, that's crazy. They brought it down to something like $44 trillion.
That's what got Credit Suisse, right?
That's right. And Deutsche is in the same position now. So either way, we're going to end up in a position where we're going to have four banks, like four massive commercial banks that are equally insolvent. And if that's the case, we need something, whether it's precious metals, some stocks, I guess, over the long term, real estate, and another form of real estate, which is called Bitcoin, because Bitcoin under U.S. law is considered property.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. It's considered property in the United States.
Yeah. Not here, though, right?
I think we follow the U.S. model for most financial stuff. I don't know if it's been adjudicated yet in Canada. I'm not sure. But I don't really care. I can be honest.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the cool thing about Bitcoin. What about concerns that I keep hearing that there's like a handful of owners of gigantic wallets that could just stop the whole currency if they decide to dump it?
Well, the biggest wallet is the wallet they believe is attributed to Satoshi Nakamura.
Right.
Whether he's still with us or not, or whether it was a group of people or not, which is what I think it is. And saying, oh, well, he'll dump $1 billion, he's going to go dump 1 million Bitcoin. Okay, well, 1 million Bitcoin is worth, I don't know how many billions of dollars. What, are you going to spend it all at once? Hey, bank, let me transact $20 billion right now. Like, no, that life doesn't work that way. You can't dump it all at once onto the market. And even so, okay, well, people will use it, right? It's still a commodity. So there's another million coin in supply, but there's still 4.5 billion people on the planet who don't have a bank account. And this is the solution for them. And the perfect model we've seen for that is El Salvador, a country that went from 30% of the country had a bank account to 100% of the country like that. And, I've tried to bank in Latin America when I lived down there, and it is a nightmare. My friends who still live there, my friends who are not only just extranjeros, but my friends who are Latinos there, it's impossible. So you want to go to open a bank account at at your local bank? Great. It's going to take 1 month. You're going to get fingerprinted, scanned, and all your IDs and criminal background check. Like, it's crazy what they go through in their banking system, and Bitcoin solves that.
Right. Yeah. Well, it might be the solution in a lot of ways. Just ask the Russians, and they got taken off the entire SWIFT international banking system. And I had clients in the recording studio who are buying beats made by Russian beat producers. All of a sudden, they're having to figure out Bitcoin. It's the only way that they could pay their guys to get music.
And you bring up an interesting point, something I tried to talk about a little bit during the convoy, and I've mentioned once or twice since in a couple of interviews. I think with Mark Petroni, the last interview I brought it up. When the UK government seized Abramovich's soccer team, he owned the Chelsea soccer team and all his assets, and froze them. I tried to bring up the point. Forget the fact that the guy's a billionaire and you might not like his political views, or you do like his political views. That's not the point. The point is, like free speech, we need to protect the free speech we don't like. And we also have to protect the rights of people to be sovereign with their assets of people we don't like as well, to protect ourselves. And it was shocking to see all these people in the Western world celebrate this guy Abramovich having all his assets seized when, hey, guess what? You might be next, which is exactly what happened to us in the Freedom Convoy. Yeah.
And that anyone in our society could cheer for that. It shows how bad things have gotten, that it's just win at any cost. The Trump era really bended people so far out of shape that it doesn't matter anymore. whether what you're doing is right or wrong. Just win that political motion any way possible.
Well, I think that's like I have. I've been setting up with some people a Discord that we're kind of in beta right now. We have, I don't know, 50 people in there and a bunch of moderators. And what was great about the Freedom Convoy and the government's authoritarian push on vaccine mandates is there are people who are very left-wing and very right-wing and in the center who were against these forced restrictions on all of us. So in the Discord, what we've set up, we have under the political section, we have a right-wing room, a left-wing room, and an I don't know room. And the idea is people can go in and out from each other's rooms to at least to start engage with people who don't necessarily agree with them on a lot of political values, but the underlying value of freedom and the ability to speak openly and respect one another is where we can all find some common ground. Because the division only benefits the political class. They all want to put us either as, they want to assign us a number. I learned this when I was campaigning, when I was a conservative candidate in 2015, right? I couldn't believe that this is how it actually works. They said, you knock on the door to not to engage and really care what the person says. You're knocking on the door to assign them a 1, 2, or a 3. A 1 means they're a strong supporter. A 3 means they're the opposition. A 2 means they're on the fence. And if they're a 2, they're the only one who gets a follow-up, right? And
right.
Every riding, they just focus on 3,000 people to swing the riding, you know? And I think that's why the division only benefits them. And it doesn't help us to go at each other's throats when we have differing opinions.
Yeah.
So I've been, you know, I become good friends with Megan Murphy, if you know who she is. She's she's a very third wave socialist feminist, friends with Joe Rogan. She was one of the first people on the left to be deplatformed from Twitter. And she's gone through the meat grinder, and now she understands what we go through. So she's trying to communicate with people kind of across the spectrum. She's no longer, a socialist because she realizes what happens when the government has all this control. But she's had this enlightening moment where people like her and I have become friends, and we're reaching out to other people who may agree or disagree on some other issues, but it's a wonderful feeling to be able to understand the perspectives. And in my Discord, some of the people who are running it are like former liberals. So I got former liberals, I got conservatives, I got social conservatives. All of them care about freedom and our ability to talk one another. And I'm hoping we can build that out.
Very cool. I hope you got good mods.
Well, yeah, that's the key.
Together.
That's the key right now. Yeah.
How would people find that Discord if they want to jump in and try that out?
It's not public yet, but give me about 30 days. In about 30 days, people can send me a DM. And
in the meantime, everyone can find you YouTube, BJ Dichter, right on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube,
watch the
Honking for
streams.
Freedom on Locals.
Yeah.
Also on Rumble, Honking for Freedom.
Yeah.
And Twitter is kind of the main platform that I'm using. I just set up a Nostr account for all the Bitcoin people.
Yeah, our little group on Twitter is messing around with Nostrum as well. It looks interesting.
Yeah, it's still early, right?
Yeah.
But at least there's an app you can download, a client you can download that makes it as easy as Twitter. So it just needs, they're the growing pains, but it looks like it has a lot of potential.
So it's kind of secure, decentralized, Twitter-ish with the audio, so you can do spaces and stuff on there. Right?
Yeah, it's decentralized. So Bitcoin, like a Bitcoin wallet, you have a private key and a public key, and it doesn't matter what client, meaning what software or shell you use.
Yeah.
There will be multiple different shells that plug into the Nostr ecosystem. As long as you have your private key, you can log in anywhere. And that the idea is you can't be censored or restricted anywhere.
Yeah, that's great. That's what we're really working on here in the background, trying to find decentralization, trying to get all these platforms out of here. Personally, I believe like right now we're running with Rumble because we're able to move people over there to some degree.
Yeah.
But now they've got Dana White over there and the Power Slap. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Rumble's the Canadian network doing the new Power Slap with Dana White from UFC. Two guys
Oh,
stand in front of each other and slap each other's faces off.
Okay.
So they're going to get bigger. They're going to get more mainstream. Who knows what'll happen once they got big advertisement dollars roll in? That's when they get scared, and that's when they start censoring people.
And
so.
it's a publicly traded company right now, so they're already going in that direction. Yeah.
That's right. So we got to keep looking for ways to do it to citizen and keep the big boys out. So for our last half hour here, I want to make sure that I come through for Rain and our followers. I want to make these clickbait thumbnails.
Okay.
We got 3 things to cover, and
Right.
that is a quick update on the state of the union for Convoy with legal battles, dramas, hopes for the future. Like, to wrap it all up for us, where you see things are at right now at the major players, yourself included, and that kind of stuff.
I encourage everybody to read Diverge Media or watch War Campaign's breakdown of what's going on around the Freedom Convoy. It's a lot to give into just a short couple of sentence thing, but basically the difficult position that I and many of the other truckers and people who helped put the convoy together are in is that the political class co-opted the convoy, trying to make Freedom Convoy a politicized organization, for the idea to just capture the votes from this movement and make it theirs. And then when everything went sideways, they fundraised around it. They fundraised around Tamara and Chris. They raised $5-point-something million over the past year. They're keeping it for themselves and to hold these events and to defend the two of them, while the rest of us are screwed. The two of them and the rest of the Freedom Corps board, which we were all removed in secession from the board for a whole bunch of nefarious reasons that were illegitimate, in my opinion. And the reasons because we asked too many questions. I grew up with somebody in the legal profession in my home. I've set up corporations before. I've run businesses. I have enough friends who are lawyers. I know when I'm dealing with a dirtbag lawyer who's lying to me. I could tell it right away. So I started asking questions, which meant, okay, he's got to be removed from the board. And then Chad and Chris started doing the same. And it's really kind of disturbing that that's been the behavior of the people who have taken your donations and exploited your goodwill so they could grab all the money, put it in the hands of the political class, and then smear the rest of us who actually did all the work, right?
Yeah.
And so
when
now
people ask me, I sum it up as basically the lawyers are the problem, right? Right.
The lawyers are working for people.
Yeah.
The lawyers are taking orders. They're not making decisions. It's much higher than the lawyers, much higher.
Yeah.
So now we're in this position where we're headed towards this $450 million class action suit, which has yet to be certified, and we want to fight certification. So that's I have a meeting in the morning tomorrow before I head out to my truck with a couple of people who are also involved. I'm trying to get as much of a coalition of us together with council and get it funded so everybody else is taken care of. So that's what I've been working on for the past several months. So you'll see online on Twitter that me and Bridget are talking. Like, me and Bridget have become pretty close over the past 6 months. Chris Guerra as well. Chad, Joe is there, Jason, like a whole bunch of us that we're trying to I'm trying to get everybody together so I can get everybody protected and represented.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the big challenge between now and whenever we go to the next stage in the certification.
So the next hope would be that the class action lawsuit would just not be allowed to proceed.
Yes. So there's a couple of legal actions we're preparing for, which is why I'm going to speak with counsel tomorrow. And but one of the big things is going to be certification, and that might be of a consideration to everybody else. And it might affect a whole lot of people if it gets certified. I'm going to talk more about that in the next couple of weeks. We got to verify a number of things, but Give, Send, Go was just added as a defendant as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, this is just trying to harass us and use us as an example to teach us a lesson that if you're in the working class or middle class or a small business operator, you better not protest in Canada. That's what they're trying to teach us. It's lawfare. The process is the punishment.
Yeah, and millions going to BLM movement the previous summer or two. That was fine.
Yeah,
right?
but with the conservative side, this side of the aisle is no better. There's been millions of dollars changing hands, going from big donors into escrow accounts, into proxy organizations. Like it's a whole mechanism that's been in operation. And many of these proxy organizations, some you may have seen, some you not have, are a part of this whole process of trying to co-opt the whole essence of what the Freedom Convoy was to make it part of a political movement. And I'm sorry, they may not like it, but in Ottawa, there were people who were liberals that were supporting us. I spoke to people who were NDP who supported us. So it wasn't, and those are people who might be amicable to kind of voting in change, but they won't vote it in when they see the type of corruption that's been going on behind the scenes. All they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot. But, go figure. People who have spent their lives in politics are completely incompetent. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Also very competent, though. They're knowing how to go after it, how to try to circle the wagons, try to make sure that this basically becomes illegal in the future. And you're right. It was a real rainbow out there on the streets, man. I mean, I was out there every day, too, and huge Native representation.
Yeah.
People of all color and stripes. Certainly people that, just by looking at them, I could tell I probably had opposing political views.
And Jay, how did it make you feel?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it was the Canada Day for weeks. Everybody forgets their problems and gets together and over a common cause, which is just, stop this madness. Then we can get down to the political stuff later. As you say, right. It really wasn't a political movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, well, hell, good luck on that. Everybody stay tuned to BJ's streams, which, I mean, you stream almost every day?
Whenever I can, when I'm not.
Yeah.
I try to do it before I get in the truck and go to the U.S., and I do on the weekends.
Yeah.
And, it's on a weekend at night. I did a stream of Punchy McGregor's documentary on the Freedom Convoy, where a bunch of us just got together and drank, and I dissected all the persuasion and marketing tools that were deceptive that he used in his documentary to lie to you. Yeah. It was pretty.
You gotta
good.
watch that one.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people liked it.
Yeah,
because I did marketing for many years at another company, so I understand. This is what I got to know Scott Adams a little bit over the past several months. Despite, we had differences on takes of how things should have proceeded during the COVID period. He was never what people try to say. He was never pro things as harshly as they think he were. But there's some disagreement. But I do love his take on, understanding how you persuade people, a very Chaldeanian perspective. So I studied that many years ago. I put it into practice, and I've been doing it now. And there's going to be a lot more to come.
He's a neat guy. What was your take, though? He really shocked me when he came out. He had that tweet. It really blew up. A lot of my circle on Twitter is really medical focused. And he did a tweet where he was like, "Why didn't you guys tell me that the vaccine didn't work?" Do you remember that? Yeah. I was like, is he joking or something?
He was joking.
Was that a joke? He seemed to be kind of carry through on it on follow-up tweets.
No,
he's got a dirty sense of humor. So
exactly. No, what he was from the beginning. I didn't agree with all his takes, which I don't agree with all my mother's takes, right?
Yeah.
But he did say from the very beginning that it's not a vaccine. It's at best therapeutics. Will it work? I don't know. That was his position.
Yeah.
But he's really, really nuanced, and he's always arguing the best arguments of both sides of the argument. And so sometimes people only see him saying one side. They don't hear his counter argument. So it's very easy to quote mine.
And that's Twitter, right? Certain things pop, and people make that this first time they've seen you or paid attention to you, and they think that's you. One little sentence. Twitter is a minefield.
Yeah,
highly effective, but it's a minefield.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on to next clickbait. The National Citizens Inquiry in Canada. We've got one of our former political leaders, Preston Manning, put together a citizens inquiry. So yesterday was kind of a fending off blows day for me on Twitter up through today. So like I put up like I made a little short video introduction, kind of targeting Americans to learn what we're doing with that. And then BJ flies in and goes, it's all a CPC scam and stuff. and then today I'm like, we have BJ Dichter on, and then someone comes in, Fed.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. I got a $450 million lawsuit, and a bunch of repairs to my truck, but I'm a Fed.
Yeah, and I'm like, can I just post something, man? Like,
it's so good.
So I did want to get into that. I mean, not that you're a Fed. That's sorry, we won't hold that against you. My dad was a Fed.
Okay.
The NCI, the National Citizen Inquiry. So you got a harsh take on it. You got a bit of a hot take on it. What do you see happening there with that?
I'm looking at it from understanding how the political apparatus functions, and all they're trying to do is they tried to co-opt the Freedom Convoy and make the Freedom Convoy a block of voters for the Conservative Party. And by the way, I'm not saying I'm for or against the Conservative Party. I don't really care. I've told people publicly, I'm not voting in the next election. I don't have a dog in this fight, so don't say that I have bias or I'm shilling for anybody. I'm not voting, okay? But what the next stage is, once they tried to do their best, and I think it's slipping away from them, to make the Freedom Convoy a voting block for them, the next step is to take everybody who was anti-vax or skeptical of the vaccines or whatever, let's make them a voting block for the Conservative Party. How do you do that? Well, let's bring up Preston Manning. Let's give it some credibility and panache in conservative spheres, and let's have this theater around the vaccines. It's like, sponsored by the conservative establishment to try to manipulate all of you to become part of a voting block. The other thing that's going on tangentially, and I'll get back to that, is there's weekly protests, right? These freedom protests. Well, starting in October, because I have some friends who are involved in it, they started telling me. I spoke at one of the freedom rallies, and I showed up, and one of them said to me, "Yeah, they're causing a lot of chaos. Some people are trying to divide us. They want us to move away from Queen's Park." I'm like, "Oh yeah, move away from Doug Ford. I guess that's the Conservatives trying to do that. I don't know." And they said, "Well, it's an organization." I said, "Okay, does the organization have social media?" And they said, "Yeah." Okay, show it to me. I open it up. I'm like, "Oh yeah, those are the same people who sabotaged us the convoy." It's the same thing, divide and conquer. So let's divide and conquer all the people who are doing the weekly freedom protests. Let's divide and conquer the Freedom Convoy, and let's divide and conquer anybody who's skeptical of vaccines, all of which to make them voting blocks for the Conservatives. And that's what I see the Citizens Inquiry being.
Interesting. So to discomplicate it for any foreign viewers, Preston Manning led a grassroots party that came out of Alberta in the 90s, right? Yeah. Was so successful, got so many seats in Parliament that the Conservative Party was basically forced to blend with them. And so our current Conservative Party here has got a lot of the roots of a true grassroots movement that happened, 30 years ago.
Well, there's also something else that I can say this publicly because Chad Eros brought this up. But at the end of the convoy, he was offered money. A whole bunch of people got a lot of money. $6,000 here, 10 grand there, whatever. I didn't get a dime. I'm the Fed, but I didn't get a dime.
What the heck?
I don't know. Because I was a pain in their ass, because I wouldn't toe the political line. And anyway, so he was on a call. Chad explained this in Twitter. He was on a call, and a bunch of Twitter spaces. He was on a call where they said, Chad, we're going to give you 10 grand just because you're really dedicated. We know this is a difficult time for you, so we'll give you 10 grand, okay? This was hush money. Chad didn't understand it was hush money because they didn't tell him explicitly. But the people who were on the call just before the 10 grand was offered, according to Chad, was Keith Wilson, Tamara Leach, and Preston Manning. Like, Preston Manning? The hell is Preston Manning doing there? So,
Yeah.
like I said, the lawyers are taking instructions. They're
Yeah.
not the ones making the decisions.
Yeah. So you see it as the kind of old guard conservatives trying to just get this obviously desirable, highly actionable political element of our citizenry and try to win them for the future, kind of thing.
Yeah, and one thing I learned being involved in that party in the past is it's so obnoxious. They're obsessed with one thing. I kept hearing it over and over again. We got to control the messaging. We got to control the messaging. And I was like, let people think what they want, and you can message around them. Like, you just got to be fluid and know how to address people. That's what Trump does, right? That's why Trump is so powerful, because he knows how to speak like, I don't know, a human being. Right? Even DeSantis does that as well. There are other politicians on the left who do that too. I don't agree with them, but they will engage, and or other figures. Bill Maher is an example of that. I don't agree with him frequently, but he's somebody. It's not controlling the message; it's engaging in conversation. But these weasels in politics, they need to control what you think and what you say, just like the lefties do. They're no different.
So the convoy is an unruly mass that they see it as a dangerous message that they could. It's not their message, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, it's mostly just been interviewing people affected by the lockdowns and stuff, right? It doesn't seem like it's incredibly even that intense or anything. Like I don't know. We'll see. I'll be cutting the videos up to make summaries, so we'll see if it starts to look stinky.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to know.
So.
I went to the website and I saw there's a bunch of videos that they've put up.
Yeah.
They're all on the same couch. Whose house is that? That's what I want to know.
They're on a couch?
Yeah. They're in somebody's living room. You look at half the videos are in the same spot. Whose house is that? Let's find out whose house that is and go from there.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, what's good in my Discord, the group of my Discord people, you have on one side, you have War Campaign, Diverge Media, National Telegraph, and a bunch of other independent people who are researching. And then within my Discord, there's a bunch of people. One in particular, she's an amazing researcher, very talented. And she does deep dives. She'll spend 6 hours researching like the most minute thing just for clarification. We have a link sources and information source channel on there where they're all sharing information about all these organizations that got involved and disrupted the Freedom Convoy, one of which being, you'll hear this term, I'm sure, frequently in the future, TBOF, Taking Back Our Freedoms, which it's shocking that they were receiving money through email transfers, yet for some reason, they're not listed in the class action suit. Oh, and it was started by conservatives.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have heard some of that chatter as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, the tangled web. This this researcher you're speaking of, does she put out Twitter stuff? Because one of the specialties here on the channel is our Spread It videos, where I grab short bits of research, threads, and stuff like that, and turn them into produced videos. So it's a thought. If she's that good, she got some good stuff that you'd like to see a little video made out of. Let me know.
You know what I'll do? I'll send you, and we're still beta, but I'll send you a link to the Discord.
Yeah.
Come in and you can talk to them, because maybe they can help you share some information
and
things that you want to know. And a bunch of them also are posting information about vaccine data and stuff like that. That's not my wheelhouse. I try to focus on freedom, as you know, but I also want a space for people to talk about that and share that information. So if you want, I'll send you a link and you guys can join if you want.
Yeah, sure. I'm always amazed by people who are that good at research and stuff. And that's kind of what made me get into that. You get on, somebody does like a 20 part thread on Twitter that just blows your mind open, at only 140 words per tweet, that they can get it all down and so quick. And I'm like, well, that make it like a great little music video. Yeah. Damn, let's go. So I'm always looking for stuff like that. And I really rely on good researchers, because I don't have the time to write all this stuff and hunt it all down, and I'm always amazed by people who can do that. The last part of the clickbait is the book. Tell us about writing the book, man. When did you get the idea to do it? What was it like writing it?
I got the idea as soon as the convoy was over, I thought I need to get the true story of what just went on, how amazing the moment was. Before I forget it, but I know the resistance and the opposition we get, which is the government. They're going to fire up the propaganda machine because I was dealing with it for 3 weeks in Ottawa. Well, plus the 2 weeks before. And they're going to be relentless, and they're going to keep going with the propaganda, and they're going to double down. Also, part of the reason I banned legacy media, because I didn't want them to have the intellectual property like they had in January 6th, where they could constantly smear us. That's why whenever they want to smear us, they only have one video of Tamara that they have intellectual property for. That press conference I told them not to have. So they have something, okay?
Right.
But anyway, so I very quickly put this together, and it was very funny. You'll see there's my name, and below it is with John Goddard. So I thought, John Goddard and I used to, well, we still do, go for coffee every Saturday morning. Tomorrow, with the exception, today was an exception, but usually every Saturday morning we would have coffee. John was a journalist for 30 years for Canadian Press, Toronto Star, all the major publications. And he left for many reasons that people left. He saw the turn of journalism turning into just the National Enquirer, and he's an investigative journalist. So he left, and he wrote a novel that was published. He's written a bunch of books. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know how to write a book. I've never written a book before. I've never done a book proposal or whatever. And I thought, if only there was somebody in my life who's written a book, who knows this whole process. I'm like, oh, wait, John. And the best part was, because he was an investigative journalist, we spent 2 months together just going through the timeline to get everything in order. Because for me, it was one long blurry day. We had to go to the internet. We had to confirm what day I had this speech on, what was happening, just to make sure it was accurate. So we set the timeline up, and then we started writing the book. So it was a process. It was very enlightening, very difficult, very grueling, extremely grueling. But it was important that this was out there before the commission, and we managed to get it out before the commission. And so far, most of the people who read it tell me there are 2 parts where it brought them to tears. It's not the political nonsense and the disruption. There's just a little bit of it in here, but this is all the good stories. It's all the human stories. That's why, Luciano Cherubino, who's on Twitter, he took this picture, and I was looking for a picture for months. I found him on not on Twitter, on Instagram. I found him, and I kept looking through other people's stuff. I reached out to him. He sent me his portfolio and said, I took 12,000 pictures in Ottawa. Ottawa changed my life. I'd love to help you out. Take a look, see what you like. And I came across this picture. And this picture, for me, this is what the convoy was about. It was these 2 people, we don't know who they are, hugging with a Canadian flag. That's what the Freedom Convoy was about. The trucks were in the background. That was our protection in Ottawa. And I saw that, and I thought, that's exactly what it is. And that's the theme you'll see, you'll read in the book. And luckily, I was blessed. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this.
Sure.
This was the endorsement on the book, and it was written by, I asked Jordan Peterson to do the endorsement for my book. And he said, yeah, sure. Because I was talking to Jordan throughout the convoy every few days. And so this is what he came back with. And I told him, Jordan, I want it to be, my idea is I want this book to have meaning in 20 years from now. I'm not concerned with right now. It's 20 years. I want this to be the historical record. So this is what he wrote. The Canadian trucker protest in Ottawa attracted tremendous national and international attention and was simultaneously demonized by the then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his cronies in the legacy media, the minions at the CBC, first and foremost among them. What really happened? Benjamin J. Dichter, integrally involved from the beginning, lets his readers in on the story, one that all Canadians should know, Jordan B. Peterson. And the part I loved the most was when he referred to then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So we're just so people understand, we are going to get beyond the blackface years. We will. There's going to be some bumps in the road. We will go back to normal eventually. The pendulum is already starting to swing. I can see it. I'm sure you guys see it as well. And it's just going to take some time.
Yeah, agreed. I think, at least this leg of it is done. What we got to do is make sure it can't happen again.
That's
Because
right.
they have got a lot of reasons, good old they, but,
Yeah.
have a lot of reasons to celebrate how this went down.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that they can't go to the next level on the next one.
And that's why I want this positive story to
Yeah.
be out there for everybody. And you can get it at, people always ask me, you never tell me where to get it. So just go to honkingforfreedom.com. Wherever it's available, the links will be up there. So right now, Amazon Kobo, Etsy, and Apple Books, it's available. And a lot of people have asked about an audiobook, especially truckers. I am working on the audiobook. I'll be reading it, and hopefully I'll have it coming out. I plan to have it out in line with the Bitcoin conferences that I'll be speaking at this summer.
Excellente. We got Lisa on YouTube here. I think she's one of yours too. Yeah, she's already read the book. Is really liking the Discord.
Oh yeah. Okay, Lisa's in the Discord. That's right.
Yeah,
awesome.
Nice.
She is the first person in the universe to have read this book, other than myself and John, Jordan Peterson, and another 2 test readers.
Yeah.
She read it in 5 minutes. I don't know. It was released, and then I got a message from her saying, "I read the book. It was amazing." I'm like, "How'd you read the book? It just came out." But
that'd be a hell of a thing, sending my book off to Jordan Peterson. Just figure like, dude, not enough big words.
Yeah, you know what? He's such a nice guy. He really is. Yeah. We've had a couple of when he was at his dad's place in Alberta, and I don't know, sometime in the fall, he finally had an hour to chat. So we were going to talk for 15 minutes. So we got on the Zoom call. We started get away from the phone so we can actually see each other, and we went on Zoom. He's I guess his dad has like an Archie Bunker chair, and it was the first time I've seen him like so relaxed, and he just wanted to talk. We ended up talking for like an hour and a half, just about a whole bunch of things, and I can't thank him enough. But he was kind of like the shoulder I could lean on, because I was trying to figure out, I wanted to, in the messaging, which was my area, I wanted to ensure that nobody slipped into a state of anxiety, no matter what the police did, no matter what the government said. Focus on peace and love and feeding each other and helping each other. Because when you get into that state, then you're not going to be anxious and you're not going to get violent. You're not going to fight. I talked many times in different interviews. Like I kept thinking back to being a teenager and going to Grateful Dead concerts. So that's kind of the vibe we needed to have, where everybody just, irrespective of our differences, come together and just support each other and love each other. And, he was kind of the guy that I was just bouncing the occasional idea off of on the phone, and he was just there to listen. It was great.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. When we're at 100,000 times our subs, we'll give him a call. There's one guy I'd love to talk to, man. One of these days, man can dream. We just got to keep working.
Yeah, I know. He's in high demand for sure.
Yeah. Another guy that's made Canada look really good. We've had a good few years, except for, as you said, blackface.
Yeah. Well, there's these 2 other professors that I know pretty well. I don't know if you know them. One is Gad Sad.
Yeah.
And the other is, I'm actually got to see Gad next weekend. I was going to see him today, but I couldn't.
Cool.
And Stephen Hicks. Stephen Hicks, you know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Stephen we had a call a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to do the next series of his podcast. And I like Stephen because and he's taught me a lot about labels and resisting labels. Stephen, you're not gonna label him a liberal. You're not gonna label him a conservative, and he's so libertarian. You can't even label him a libertarian. I'm an individual. I'm Stephen, and I have a whole range of thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to go to more. And that's difficult for people. I get it. We're pattern-seeking animals.
Yeah,
But
and it's tricky when you're trying to talk about things in general. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to try to give a whole big speech about where you're at. You're gonna go, oh, I'm a righty, I'm a lefty. You know, okay, it kind of ends up happening automatically, but it is dangerous and it's
Yeah.
divisive.
That's right.
Stephen Hicks, for anyone who hasn't seen him, you got to check him out. He's a great key to the puzzle of how we got to where we are, understanding his takes on postmodernism, communism, etc. Very, very interesting stuff.
Well, that's why if you understand from my perspective, if you understand postmodernism, you understand blackface. He's no longer threatening. You understand Jerry Butts. You understand all of them because that's their underlying philosophy, and they're so easy to predict. And it's his work in explaining postmodernism that really, like, I think when Jordan references postmodernism, he's had Stephen on his podcast a couple of times. I think he's sourcing a lot of a lot of academics do, because Stephen's kind of a hero in academic circles, especially amongst the Mises type academics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see us to go more in that direction. Because
you have done podcasts with him, right?
What's that?
You have done podcasts with him, right? You sent me one that you produced, right?
Yeah, we do Open College with Stephen Hicks, and we're hopefully going to be doing. He said he's working on a whole bunch of episodes right now.
Great.
To release a whole batch of them in 2023. He's going. I think he's going to be. I shouldn't say too much, but him and Peterson are looking at doing a mini tour in Latin America. They're trying to put something together. And I'm trying to put something together with Stephen and a couple of other well-known figures, similar to like an IDW type tour, but myself, Stephen, and a few other people. So hopefully that will come to fruition for 2024.
Keep us posted, man.
Yeah, I will for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered all my clickbait, BJ.
Right.
I had people like, what do you mean doubts about the NCI? What do you mean he's a Fed? And like, all right, just watch the show. So hopefully everyone tuned in and get your stuff worked out about who's an op and what's an op and who's op and what op with an op, and it's a lot of circular firing squads forming these days.
Yeah, like
we have to be very careful about.
Just a comment on all the smears that come in, and I'm not the only one. Other people have gotten them as well. War Campaign talks about when he was called in by Freedom Corp, invited to a meeting, and they gave a presentation on how War Campaign and all their other stakeholders should talk about the Freedom Convoy. And everybody else went along with it. He was the one guy who said, I got a job. I don't need this bullshit. I'm not here to be a politician. So sorry, not sorry. I'm not participating in this nonsense. So now they're attacking him. Now they're attacking War Campaign. Now War Campaign are feds, right?
Right.
Because that's the line. If you don't follow along with what they are dictating you to say, then you get the smear. You get, oh, you're a Fed, you're an op, you're tied to this, you stole this, you did that. Those smears are coming from the establishment conservative people. That's where it comes from.
But people pick up on it quickly. People at ground level pick up on it quickly. Everyone's looking to catch the op. Everyone's looking to be out ahead of the op. Everyone's looking to be, and especially if that person isn't exactly saying what you think is the correct theory of going on. Lots of the people at the top of medical freedom movements and stuff like this, they get to the top and the controlled op stuff starts just hitting them right away, and you can tell there's a whole group of people that are with us, ideologically, politically, working towards the same goals, to all jump on, all pile on, without evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's scarily easy.
Yeah.
For me, it's we have a goal here. Like, we can't have this happen again to us. We have to make sure that we have freedom and justice in the world. Right. Until someone starts doing something that is provably against the movement. They're out there saying, all the right things every week, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be differences of opinion and differences of
Of
opinion,
course.
especially how to get there. But I'd like to see a lot less of this circular firing squad stuff. It really drives me bonkers.
Yeah, no, me too. Well, like something that happened during the convoy was in my messaging. I was trying to cast a really wide net. I needed to get some liberals on board. I needed to, and we managed to. And that's what ended up me talking to through a conduit to liberal MPs who were forming a coalition to maybe have a non-confidence vote for blackface. That's how far we were getting.
Right.
But there's a group of people that were like really strident anti-vaxxers, which, okay, I support you, but that they wanted to take over the messaging and make that the messaging in the convoy. I'm like, if you do that, I'm going to lose the liberals and all the other people on the other side we need to convince. They're all coming on board on freedom. So this is what we'll do. You have your organization. We'll do a statement. I'll explain that this group, this organization is here discussing vaccine data with doctors. They're supporting the Freedom Convoy. We support their right to free speech. If you want to participate in their event, they're going to be holding it whatever this date and time. That way, everybody gets to be included, but the Freedom Convoy is still a broad tent that liberals who don't understand this will still be comfortable in participating on a message of freedom. No, that wasn't good enough for them. Okay, well, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's tricky. But for the most part, it's sticking together, and 2023 has been a good year. It's been a good year. We're coming out the other end, I feel, in a lot of ways.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, just looking at, there's a lot of regret just on social media and Twitter. You're seeing people who were full-on establishment 2-3 years ago coming out now going like, oh my God, what have we done?
And remember, 1 to 5 years. And this is the first year where people are waking up.
Yeah.
Imagine how they're going to be in 5 years. Remember, there was that very famous story of the Canadian quintuplets with, I think it was the 1910s or the 20s, that were paraded around on carnivals, and it basically destroyed their lives. And now we look at, you know, how society behaved. Those people were like pariahs. I think that's how history is going to look at how the government behaved and how people behaved and tried to marginalize us, you know?
Agreed. It's gonna be like, what the hell were they doing?
That's right.
I
agree.
But I think I'm big into finding out who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for me, and I think for Rain as well. That's the thing that kind of keeps us digging. I want justice. And to get justice, we got to find out who did what, who knew what, that kind of stuff.
And not a faceless bureaucracy.
No.
Not, it was Pfizer. No. The names of the people who were making these decisions and lying to people. That's what we need.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's like, So that's what keeps me going, and that's why I like those research papers. That's why I make like trippy little videos where we go through deep stuff quickly. We've got to get some names on tables, and figurative YouTube, figurative heads will roll.
Yes.
Until then, I think they'll just try it again. But some heads have to roll for this. We've got to get some justice out there. And there's good people like, are you familiar with John Baudouin from Massachusetts? We had him on.
Yes. We
had him on Rumble. It's our biggest video ever, where he Freedom of Information acted the government of Massachusetts and got all the death certificates. Because it turned out they hadn't thought of that yet. And so he's also an engineer. So he spent like better part of a year making something like, I think he said it was a 2 gigabyte Excel spreadsheet that correlates everything and destroys the narrative in an undeniable way about COVID, about the harm, iatrogenic causes, all this kind of stuff. And we need more action like that. This guy's a whirlwind. You should look him up on Twitter and see what he's up to.
Well, and he's an engineer. Like, I'll tell you a funny story. One of the calls I had with Jordan in the fall was with myself and my counsel ahead of the POEC and Jordan. My counsel is Jim Carahelios, who was he ran for leadership of the Conservatives, started his own Ontario party, whatever. And I said to Jordan, the reason I've chosen him, people think it's political. It's not political. We became very good friends over the past several years. But Jim, prior to becoming a lawyer and going to law school, he was an engineer by trade. And I knew I would need somebody who's hyper focused on attention to detail. I only have 1 year of mechanical engineering, but he completed his degree. And I said, I knew that sort of mindset with a law degree could be a very fierce weapon legally. And Jordan's like, oh, yeah, so he's had a real job.
Yeah, the engineers are just hard to fool. That's
why?
Right. Well, why
That's
would
right.
that be? Show me the
exactly.
data. Yeah, why? Yeah. So I'd like to get something like that going here in Canada. There must be some kind of way that we can access to information, similar information here.
You can do FOIA requests here. They're a little bit clumsy because we do FOIA requests directly to the police, I know some people, I think I might know somebody actually who has experience in government that if you want to put together FOIA requests around COVID, she might know the best routes to go. I can ask.
Interesting. Yeah. See if she's open to that, because I'd specifically like to do what Baudouin has done in the States, because by pulling up the death certificates, you get name, all medical procedures done in recent time, attributing causes, main cause of death. And he's able to prove outright willful lying and falsification of these records. And so I mean, these are actionable legal. Want heads rolling? This is one of the ways it could really be done.
That's
and
right.
So
and
I did a baby step look into it, and death certificates are generally like you can only get them if you're family, but they use these for provincial sources that they were locking us down with. So there must be some way to access it. These things were used for reports.
You know what? I'll ask for you. And she's a data analyst type person as well.
Yeah.
And she's very much aligned with you on this issue. Like she was very, very strident. And her argument is always the data shows sort of thing. So she would definitely, and she knows how this whole apparatus works. I'll ask her and see if she can help out and point you in the right direction.
Please.
Okay.
If need be, I'd be willing to be that guy that does it. But we need something up here that direct. I'm really kind of in awe of him.
All right.
And we need something like that. We need a few heads rolling around up here in Canada with a little bit of snow on top of them.
Figuratively, YouTube. Figuratively.
Figuratively. All right. Well, great. Thanks for joining us. I think we'll call it there. We got to get back to ice drinking.
Okay. Well, just one more thing.
Yes.
I'm just a regular person.
Yeah.
That intro was amazing. I loved it, by the way. I really did.
Thanks, BJ.
Let's get you back again, BJ, whenever things
Anytime,
progress.
guys. I'm around. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful, and you've always been very, very, very kind. And I really
Thank you,
appreciate
BJ.
it.
You too. All right. Let's stay in touch.
Guys,
We'll talk soon. We'll be back next week, guys. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.